Welcome everyone to my channel, Beth Bell Live. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you haven't already filled out your state of the heart, I would love to know where you're at. BethBell.me, there's a beautiful little questionnaire and you'll find out, are you blocked? Are you broken? Are you healing? Or are you a whole heart? And irregardless of which category you're in, it's always about building that spiritual toolbox to help us navigate relationships, love, and life. That's what we do here on the show. You submit questions and I answer them. I bring my higher self to the table and talk to your higher self and bring insights and wisdom to help you get through some of those things that make your heart break or ache. And I wanted to start this week with a little bit about the status of my heart and thought I would share something that's weighing heavy on my heart and then share something that is catapulting my heart. What's weighing really heavy on my heart is, as much as I have not ever been a political person in my life, I have jumped in and really shared a lot of messages about RFK and what his whole platform is. But what I've found is that so many people are brokenhearted over this whole political environment. And I had this unique experience yesterday. I was walking Miss Lily, and we went down to our favorite spot overlooking the ocean at Swami's, and we happened to sit at a bench that someone else was already sitting at, and we just started talking. I don't know if the guy was homeless or a millionaire. I have no idea. But he started talking about politics, and I just got this hit, like, just listen. So I was like, everything he said, I said, that's really interesting. I said, yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting. And he kept going on, and I thought, wow, this is so great, because I wasn't challenging him. I wasn't trying to get my belief systems across. I wasn't trying to convince him of anything, which I don't normally do anyway, but I just really listened to what he had to say. And I thought, wow, those are some interesting ideas, right? Interesting perspectives. And I just genuinely wanted to hear what he had to say. But then I started to realize, wow, this is shifting this guy's energy. Like, because he just needs to feel heard. And I thought, wow, what if we all just listened to each other without any intent of trying to shift the conversation or the narrative or, get our points across. And we just listened, because his whole energy changed. His body language was shifting, and his everything about him was changing. And, I said, we just got to keep the peace, don't we? Shine your light, show the way. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I thought, wow, what a great interaction. It was just like kind of a heart to heart. And again, I don't know, like my mind was kind of like drifting, wondering, like, is what he's saying make any sense? Or, but I just kind of was like, that's not the point. Let's just listen. So I think the more we can listen to each other without trying to put it through our own filter, even, and just let people be heard. It doesn't matter. You have your thoughts, and they have theirs, and just let it go, right? And just be in the peace and shine the light and show the way. So that's what's heavy on my heart, is seeing so many people that are heartbroken and really struggling with what's happening in the political environment. We're going to be okay. So stick with that. The thing right now that actually is catapulting my heart is kind of, I want to say, a funny one. An artist that I really like dropped a new single, and it's called First Heartbreak, from Love. I don't know if you know him. If you do and you like him or you don't like him, let me know in the comments below. But I started listening to the song and I just cannot stop. And it's a super sad song. It's about his first heartbreak. It's about how hard it is. And I'm like, I find it so fascinating, because I do love heartbreak songs. And if you have read my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, you know that my heart's been broken many times, as I'm sure yours has too. And I've recovered many times from some of the deepest, darkest, heartbreaking situations and relationships, and lost love and lost dreams and fantasies and all of that. And yet this heartbreak song just catapults me. I really think that why it does is because it puts me into my heart. Like, I feel my heart. And when we start to get through heartbreak, as opposed to like wallow in it, we really can feel our hearts in a different way. And then we know how much love we actually have in our own hearts to give and to share with so many other people out there. And one of the phrases I wrote it down, because I'm like, I can't forget this, that I love in the song, is he says, you can't know heaven until you know hell. Now, whether you believe that or not, I mean, it's duality, right? Sometimes we don't know tall unless we know short. So our biggest heartbreaks are often our biggest catalysts to loving ourselves more deeply, more intently, and to be able to share that love with others. So I hope that through the journey of heartbreak, I can help you. And if you have a question, please write it in the chat. If you're watching us live, I would love to help you overcome whatever situation you're in, whether it's romance or it's family or it's something just in life, or maybe it's work. Please put it in the comments. And if you're watching on replay, you can put it in the comments, or you can go over to bethbell.me/questions. It's a little bit more private, but during the live show, I won't be catching the questions that get submitted through the website. So I'd love to hear from you, whichever way works best for you. I can't wait to answer your questions and provide some insights that can help you really just get through that heartbreak. All right, we do have a live studio audience today, and I'm super excited about that. I'm having so much fun with the humans that show up and ask their heartfelt questions. And we're going to start out, though, with one that's pre-submitted. And we're going to give the audience just a moment to kind of settle in and get their questions ready. All right, question number one. This was actually from last week, and we didn't get to it. In a relationship, it usually is the woman who wants to stop having sex. Then the relationship starts to go downhill. How do you stop that? I love this one. This is obviously one person's perspective. I think that he probably has a lot of truth to that. It's what his experience has been. And I would say what comes to mind is women need to be heard. And men oftentimes don't have the patience to listen, because we talk about lots of shades of gray. We talk about this a lot of times on this show. And when women start to feel like they're not being heard, they start to feel like they're not being seen. And when they're not being seen, they don't feel validated in the relationship. And I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but oftentimes women do stop providing their bodies and their soul and their love through sex, because they know it's like the one thing that's going to like really get the guy. And so women need to be a little bit more conscious about how they're leveraging, this sex component in their relationship, because the reality is that you're in a relationship, you're in a marriage to have this beautiful shared connection of souls. And so why would you allow a man to be in your bed ready to go and not, I don't want to say service him, but I mean like share your soul with him? Because that's just a really immature way and perspective if we're just going to like close our hearts and close our minds and just say, yeah, I'm just not going to give it up. And I know it doesn't happen quite like that. It's like a buildup and a buildup of, he didn't hear me here. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. And then that drive starts to just go away, that drive for union. And so I'm going to give the insights that I know you already know, but sometimes it's hard to implement. And it's one word. It's communication. So the woman has to communicate and the man has to communicate. Honey, I need something more from you. Like I want to connect with you. But if men can say it in a way that makes women really feel seen and heard, that it's not just about sex. It's not just about like, hey, I'm ready to go. And you walk up to them and you like make out with them, or, you push yourself on them to like show them that you're ready. Like that stuff doesn't often work. It can work. But if you're in a little bit of disparity and you're like really disconnected, that woman needs to feel a deeper connection with you. She needs to feel that you care so much about her, that you want to listen to her and you want to listen to her feelings and you want to feel seen and heard and validated. And I bet you're going to see your relationships change dramatically. But you have to come into it listening with a whole heart, meaning you kind of have to be ready to listen for a long time. And the better you get at this, the shorter those sessions will be, because it's just innate within women a lot of times that we just pull our men through the ringer to get them to listen, because it's like our way of feeling that they care about us. So women, we have to be a little bit more conscientious about how many times the man is coming forward, is listening to us, is validating our feelings. And when we're getting a little bit like off kilter with wanting to be heard, right? When we're getting a little bit into those ridiculous areas of, dare I say, nonsense. So, all right. And sometimes that's where a girlfriend is kind of a nice launch pad. I'm not saying go and talk to your girlfriends about everything. I think it's important to keep it in the relationship, but I'm just saying sometimes we need to have some of that ongoing conversation that a girlfriend's great to do, but not when it comes to something specific to your relationship. That has to stay within the actual relationship itself so that you can work through it. Otherwise, the man gets blindsided and you've built, years of information on him that you don't like that he did, and he has no clue that he's done any of those things most of the time. Okay, I would love to hear in the future, if I don't know where you're at in your relationship right now, but if you come back on the show, let us know how this goes. Let us know if you've seen a difference in your life, and a difference in how the women that you're dating respond to you, and whether that goes downhill or not, or maybe you're in a long-term relationship. Either way, let us know. I look forward to hearing more about that. And if there's more I can answer, please submit it in the questions, and I'll be happy to pick it up again next week. Okay. Are we ready to go to anybody in the audience? Anyone want to ask a live question? Okay, great.
Thank you. Great to be here. My question is actually more about family member. My dad has his birthday in 3 days, and he passed away about a year and a half ago. So I'm feeling definitely ache in my heart, but it's there's a sweetness to the ache. And so my question is more about, can you say something about the difference between a good ache, like a sweetness of remembering, uh, and I wouldn't say a bad ache, but an ache that feels more like just pain?
So I know that you're intuitive enough to really feel into your dad's spirit and his energy. And I think he would love nothing more for you to do something ceremonial for him. We do the funerals, and then we kind of forget about like the importance of like ceremony, right? And about honoring and celebrating their life. He is so with you, as you know, and he would love to do something with you on that day. Something, I don't know, I'm getting like full body goosebumps, but maybe it's something at the beach. Maybe it's something that you guys used to do together, that you go and you do it together, but it's like maybe you, or maybe you pull in another family member and you just talk about like all the memories that you have. Like, I don't know if you went to the races together. I'm just making stuff up, that you go to the races, and then you take someone with you and say, I just want to talk about all the memories about my dad right now, and you just like get in the joy of like what that all was for you, and feel that. Right. And then you know what? It's going to probably bring tears. And then we just let ourselves cry, because I don't think we ever like fully get over the loss of our loved ones. But we know that we run in soul circles. And so that's another way, I think, to kind of just feel into that. Like, I'm going to see you next lifetime too. Right. And I don't know who you're going to be. Maybe I'm going to be your dad. Maybe I'm going to, maybe who knows what role they're going to play in your life. And so sometimes I find that curiosity about just next lives, like, hey, we had such a great life this time. There's probably going to be something even more juicy next time. So I'm not saying like you well on like a future life, but I'm just saying sometimes that brings in another element of fun, right? Is just to know that eternal love, that eternal life perspective, so that we don't have to just sit in the loss, but that we allow ourselves to feel the loss, shed the tears and have the sadness. And then the other thing that comes to mind is ask for a sign. Wake up that day or maybe the night before and say, Dad, I'm not going to stay attached to this idea, but I'd love for you to show me something that just makes me go, this is my dad, right? Whatever that might be. And then just with curiosity, so that you don't get disappointed at the end of the day if it doesn't happen or whatever. Maybe it's going to happen a week later, or maybe it happens and you just aren't able to see it, right? Because that often happens. Like, they're speaking to us all the time. They're sending us a butterfly, or, something that we just, because we haven't fine-tuned our ability to always stay in touch with the other side, because we have enough going on right here in this dimension, in this lifetime, that we don't always have to be open to everything our loved ones have given us or are giving us on the other side. I also feel like he's really communicating that he has something for you to help you with your mom, and that he really has a message for you on that, and that I feel like he's asking you to journal that he's saying, tap into me, like I got stuff I want to share with you about how I think this can be different or shift, or or maybe it's just sentiments that he wants to express about it. So I would tap into him in your journal as well. I think he's really speaking to you very loudly, and he's really happy to hear that you want to honor him, and that you're seeing this beautiful time of his death day as an opportunity to frame it differently. And I think what you do will impact all of your family members as well, like how you demonstrate his passing and how you celebrate his passing will have a ripple effect energetically, if not like physically, in this dimension, because they'll see you doing your practice, and they'll say, wow, I want more of that. Yeah, I'm not going to wallow in this. I'm going to celebrate in this. Is that helpful? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Was there a follow-up on that, or? Yeah. Okay. We'll get better at the microphone in the next episodes.
Actually, you started to answer the second thought that I had with it. The second question is, I've spoken with a lot of people, including my mom, with her loss of her father, about how long does the ache last for? And it seems like, I mean, you were kind of speaking to it, but it seems like it can last for your whole life. And so I guess my second question with that is, I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. But I guess I'm wondering how long does it last for, and how can I keep that as a healthy, good ache, you know, for it lasting my life.
I love that question too, because what kind of came to me was linking it right back to the beginning of the show with the Heartbreak song, right? Because I think it's kind of weird that I love heartbreak songs. And yet it brings me back to that achiness in my heart to just do a little sweeping, do a little cleaning. Like, I think it's really good for us to feel into our hearts. And when we lose someone, or even the thought of losing someone, helps us go in and just say, hey, where am I at with that? My own glow, my own love light. And so I think that's part of what heartbreak comes to teach us, right? Whether it's a romantic loss, or it's a parental loss, or a loss of a friend, even if they haven't left the planet, but someone, a relationship that we've lost, it makes our heart ache. Like, we can't, there's lots of relationships that I still have an ache in my heart. I wish that they were different. I wish that they would have ended different. I wish my fantasies would have come true. Right. So I think, yeah, I don't think we need to put a limit on heartache. And I don't think we need to look at it as bad. I think, again, it goes back to that, let's not wallow in it. Right. And wallowing in it to me feels like when we're really feeling victim of it. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the difference is when you really drop in, and the way that I'm being shown it right now is, when you start getting a thought, and it's kind of like walking around the rabbit hole, and then you start to realize that the thought actually starts to pull you into this lower energy, dip into it, but then go, oh wait, okay, and then don't go into the hole about it, right? So if you start feeling that, let's just use your dad as an example, you start feeling the loss of a parent, feel it. Don't try to stop yourself from feeling it. But then get to a journal, get to a meditation where you start to say, oh, yeah, show me all those juicy things that are making me sad, but let me honor the beautiful relationship that I had. Right. And then if it's romantic, you don't want to stay attached to those, because then you're just keeping your life cord connected to that person. So if it's a romantic thing, you do want to be able to know the difference, right, between honoring what they represented in your life, but not holding on to it where your heart's not open for other opportunities. So I think there's a little bit of nuanced differences between romance, family, people crossed over, all of those things. But I think it is just really having that discernment of like, okay, I'm at the rabbit hole and I've got some, some thoughts that are really making me feel this way. And I'm going to feel them. And then I'm going to let them go. And I'm going to do that through journaling. And I'm going to transmute them through journaling. Right. And just see the beauty in all of it, because that is what relationships are here to do, is to help us see the beauty of who we really are. Is that helpful? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I think if we don't have any live, I will jump into a couple more we've got actually a whole bunch of them here that are pre-submitted. One that came in, and I know this person was on live. I don't know who it is, but it says, should I move on from my child's father? And it doesn't give me a lot of information. And again, I'm not professing to be a psychic about what you should do, but I do tune into your energy, and I do have my higher self communicate with your higher self to bring in some nuances that you might not be seeing. The fact that you're asking the question, should I move on from my child's father, tells me that you want to move on. Otherwise you're not in harmony. You're in discord with the child's father. And the way that it was written also gives me the feeling that you are staying because it's your child's father. Right. And so there's a guilt that's coming forward around this question that we don't stay in relationships out of guilt. And your child chose you and the father as their parents. So we have to always remember that these soul contracts are happening, and that even though you're the mother and you think that you're the one that's sort of, the destiny creator for, the child, because that's what we all feel like, there's an element of that, right? Like, I have to raise this child the right way, or I have to do blah, blah, blah with my child. While that's true in many respects, the biggest thing you can do for your child is follow your heart. And if the child's father is helping you to grow in your spiritual awakening journey, then stay. So if there's things there that you go, yeah, he's working on his stuff, I'm working on my stuff, then stay. But if you're just there because it's your child's father and you're not getting that growth that you're looking to have, then there's nothing better that you could do than to show I feel like it might be a son, but I don't know, your son or your daughter, another way, that just because this is the mother-father doesn't mean that we stay in a relationship that's either destructive or stale, right? We show them something so valuable when we do what's right for us. And I say that from a selfish perspective, but not in the sense that one might define selfish, like in a really soulfully selfish way, because that is true love. That is true love. It's true love, especially when you communicate to the other person your truth. So if we don't communicate, like if you don't communicate to the child's father and you just leave, then that's not helping the growth of anyone. It's not helping the growth of the father or the child. So it comes back to always coming to your truth, how you're feeling. And you might be surprised. You might be surprised that the father had no idea that all of these things were going on in your head. Give him a chance. Give him a chance to show you where he's at in his growth and his desire to actually be not only the child's father, but your romantic partner, lover, long-term soulmate. Yeah, find that out first. And then I think you'll really be grounded in what it is that your truth is, and you'll share your truth, and then you'll get hopefully his truth. And if he's not at a place in his life where he can then share back, that's also going to be a really important nugget that you'll need to know as to whether or not he's the person that's going to help you with the next layer or level of your growth. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. If not, put it in the comments. I'm happy to elaborate on that next week. Thank you so much for asking that. All right, we're going to go back to another question here that's submitted. Okay, my daughter's birthday party is next week. I have a work conflict on the morning of her party. My husband said he'd take care of everything. She puts that in quotes, which I'm grateful for. However, I know he's not going to get everything done. How do I help him do it right so I don't have to be frustrated and or scramble in the hour before when I'm home? First of all, set him up for success. I think how we spin these narratives in our mind, it's almost like he's already set up for failure. Like you're already expecting him to fail. And men are really good at tasks, but they're not great mind readers. It's just not their job. It's no one's job. It's not a woman's job. It's not a man's job. It's no one's job to read someone else's mind. So if there's a list you can give him, because he's not going to care about the details that you care about. It's just how it works. Even if the sexes were flipped, like who knows the details in somebody else's mind? Really? I mean, like a certain plate that you use could be really important because you think that that's your child's favorite, blah, 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 right? Action character. And that could be really important to you, but to your spouse, it could be like, yeah, I can't even imagine why that would matter. I put out plates and the plates work, right? So you have to get really clear about what it is that your expectations are of the party. Make the list and provide the list well in advance and ask, like, honey, how can I help you? I am so grateful that you're willing to take care of everything, right? And honor a man when he is stepping up to the plate to say, I want to help. He wants to meet your expectation. I mean, look, people in general want to meet each other's expectations. And I really think that men do. And I think women are really hard on them because they just think differently. It's like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? It's not a new concept. It's just we have to like get into our heart space to be a little bit more compassionate about how we navigate our relationships as men and women and understand some of the just typical differences that we see. I don't think he's going to let you down. And if he lets you down, I would say think about what you could have done differently to help him meet all of your expectations, so that we're always just accountable for our own actions and our own approach to the relationship or the situation, as opposed to trying to immediately blame or say, oh, I knew this was going to happen. All those things, like they don't help a relationship. So if he fails in your eyes at preparing for this birthday party, it's not something that's going to help him be more in love with you or step forward next year for next year's birthday party, right? It's not going to help that. So you got to help yourself and you got to jump in and say, I want to make this the most successful thing ever. And I am so grateful. And I think with that energy, you're going to find that he's stepping up to the plate more and more and more. And because you've over communicated in some ways, some of your must-haves or expectations, that he's going to get really good. Men are great learners. I mean, people in general are great learners when they feel like someone is really grateful for what it is that they're doing. So yeah, just always come back. I know it's always easiest to give the people we love the most the hardest time. I know that personally. We all experience that, but this is what builds strength and foundation in a relationship, is when you know that they know, that the other person's got your back. And that's what relationships are for too. All right. If you have any additional questions or if there's something else I haven't answered, please put it in the comments. Even if you're a listener and this is not your question, but something comes forward, feel free to add any comments in the question below, and I'll be happy to either respond on comments or in next week's show. Okay. Let's jump in. Do we have another question from the live audience, or do we want to? Okay, great.
So we have a question from the audience. I fear having an affair with a married man. We're fighting not to, but the attraction is so strong. It's involuntary. It's exhilarating and terrible. I cry every day about it. So far, succeeding, but I think it cut off. So, but perhaps so far succeeding, but requesting more support.
Okay. Yeah, it does require support. And I think you're really brave for stepping forward and asking that question, because, in our bodies, we oftentimes can't control when we have an attraction to someone. And oftentimes the stronger the sexual chemistry, the bigger the wound. And I don't mean that from a bad place. I mean, let me say it this way. The bigger the lesson. Again, I think stepping into your truth and really feeling into like what is that within me that's desiring this? So there is what's coming is something missing in your marriage that this person is potentially coming in to help you learn or see about yourself. Now, I won't say whether you should act on it or not act on it, because that's really something that you have to decide. But I would highly encourage you to get into your truth. Like, what is it about this person that I want, that I desire, that what is it that they're reflecting to me? You know, what are the components? Sometimes it's emotional things, sometimes it's material things, right? Sometimes they're more successful, sometimes they're more flashy, sometimes they're more charismatic. And sometimes it's because we've suppressed, and this may be for the collective, it may not be specific to you, but we've suppressed something about ourselves that we really want to express. And we have stopped ourselves for X, Y, and Z reason. And marriage, oftentimes, as much as I love the concept of marriage, we sort of get into a box of like, okay, what did we both say is right and wrong in a marriage? What did my upbringing tell me is right and wrong in a marriage? And then you start like locking in to these ideas about what marriage should be and how you should act in marriage. And sometimes that means that you don't get to express yourself and you don't get to be like the big-hearted, sexy, juicy lover that you are. And someone else comes along and says, "Hey, I got another way for you to look at life." And you go, "Whew, yeah, and I want that. I want to feel this in my body. I want to be woken up." You know, like that's what they do is they wake us up from a slumber. They wake us up from something about ourselves that isn't being expressed. So first of all, have gratitude. Just absolutely have gratitude that there's something that's been awoke. Is that the word? Awakened within you that is helping you to see life in a different way. Now, acting on that creates a whole plethora of other things that I don't think I probably even need to say on here because we all know what comes down the pike with that. I would say the best thing you can do is be honest with yourself and then be honest with your partner. Because if you dig into the nugget of like, what is it that's attracting me? You can go to your partner and you can say, "Hey, like I realize that I'm missing this." You might even, if you're really brave, and I'm not, a lot of people aren't, and it's okay, but if you're really brave, you can go to your partner and say, "Honey, I met someone. I have not acted on anything. Or I flirted because I got this, whatever it is, you know, I'm like, my heart felt big and pounding out of my chest. And while I want that with you, I'm not getting that. Is there something we can do to get that?" And I think you will find that your partner will, you know, either be like, "Oh my God, are you telling me that you want to cheat on me?" and like shut down or have some kind of a conniption, or have a conniption and then come to this other side, which is, "Whoa, thank you for letting me know. Thank you for being so honest with me about what's happening. Let's talk it out." Or you can choose to just act on it and deal with however the chips fall afterwards. Oftentimes that's what happens. And I'm not saying that there's one way that's right or wrong. It's your soul's journey. And I say, live your soul's journey. Live, you know, how you feel in your heart. Is there more coming in from the person? Okay, I want to hear. Sorry. Tell me what the person's saying. I just want to make sure I'm on.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that if you have anything else to share that might shift, if you understood that actually the man is married and she's not, and
Okay.
she feels like they hit on all cylinders with each other. She knows the likely outcome of affairs. He'll do anything for me and it feels good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, just because it helps me to fine tune getting into your energy more specifically. Once a snake, always a snake. If that person isn't willing to be honest, the way that we were just talking about it, thinking that it was you, if that person's not willing to be honest with their current spouse, then I think it's really important that you think about what that would mean for you down the road. Because if you think that you're going to have a long-term relationship with him, and maybe that's not the case either, maybe you just want to have the affair, then it's a repeated pattern that's going to happen again, unless that individual has worked through that issue that they have with themselves. What is it that is driving them to not be honest with themselves and not be honest with their partner, their spouse? And I think right there, you're dancing with integrity as a really interesting thing. But I would also feel into your integrity as well. And I don't mean it from like a deep judgment standpoint. No, I mean, this happens all the time. And sometimes really beautiful things come of it. But when we have sexual relationship with other people, we get entangled with them energetically. We get entangled with them emotionally. We get entangled. And while it's fun in the beginning and it's like creates all this really juicy, stuff, it comes back to bite us, because then we want that, and we want our fantasy to come true. And our fantasy, like, again, this could be for the collective. It might not be your specific fantasy. And if there's something more that's coming, just pause me, because I want to make sure I hear this individual's comments. You may have a real fantasy built around what this is going to translate to.
And he is very sexy and good looking.
Of course he is. Of course he is. Right? And the image that I'm getting is Adam and Eve in the garden and the apple. So, it's the temptation. And I don't mean to bring in a religious thing. I mean to bring in, just these like really deep life lessons that we get tempted with. And there is a sexiness to it, because if there wasn't, then you wouldn't be attracted. And it doesn't always mean like physical good looks, right? It could be charisma, it could be whatever. But again, I think he's showing you something about yourself that you want to live, an expression of yourself that you want to express that you haven't been. There's something there. And so that charisma, is going to get you. But again, I feel like now I might be repeating myself a little bit, but it's coming back to say that it's about integrity and entanglement. And you have to sit with those two things. You have to sit with your integrity, his integrity, and know that you already are to some degree. I don't know if you've actually, partaken in it or not. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but it's an entanglement. And sometimes there are previous lives, like karmic entanglements, and sometimes they're just like something in this life that's going to create chaos. But whatever it is that you do, just know that there is another human involved in this. There is a wife, and there's an element of her that signed up for this contract for her husband to cheat on her, and there's all of that. However, if that was your best friend, is that what you would still do? So I think we have to sit in that integrity and the entanglement and really get deep with ourselves. Like, what does this mean to me? Because oftentimes what happens, it's very derailing. It's emotionally derailing. It's heart ripping in the end. It's fun when we're in it. But man, down the road, the integrity and the entanglement will come back to bite you big time. And so it's, like, why am I wanting to be in this? And I have a feeling what you would say to me is, it's just in my body. It's not in my mind. I'm not like thinking that I want this. Like, I wish I didn't want this. I don't want to be in this. That's the feeling that I get from you. But you're loving it so much. So I would get in there and say, everything that's truth. Hey, so-and-so, whatever his name is, you are so intriguing to me for X, Y, and Z reason. But the truth is that you are married, happily or not. If he's unhappily married, then get divorced, right? Think about, what do you want long term? Is this like you just want to have the sex and the entertainment aspect of it? You can do that. But again, I'm going to tell you that emotionally, this is not going to be an easy separation if you choose to continue to go on with it, and really get him to share what his intentions are. What are your intentions? If your intentions are just like, I want to have a 3-month toward love affair with you, and then I want it to end because I want to find someone that I can have a life with, then tell him that. And ask him, what are your intentions? But I can tell you the entanglement's going to get deeper. It's going to get deeper, and you've got another human that is going to be devastated and hurt. And if this gentleman wants multiple partners, then he needs to go to his wife and say, honey, I'm polyamorous and I want to be with multiple partners. And if he can't tell that truth, then who wants to be with a guy that can't tell the truth? And if we do want to be with a guy that can't tell the truth, then why do we not want to know the truth? And like, it's always a mirror. So just get back to you. Get back to you. Why, what's my truth? What do I want out of this? What are my intentions? And really be honest with yourself, because that's the lesson. Ultimately, that's the lesson, is for you to get to your truth. Is that helpful? And is there something more coming live online? Did that help? Yeah.
I'm loving the engagement online. There's another aspect of that they work together, and that he's doing a lot for her at work. And so there's a continued, they're going to be around each other a lot.
Okay. You're not going to like what I'm going to say next. Get a new job. It's, I don't want to feel like I'm like your mother right now, but I can tell you the wisdom would say that you will potentially, when we don't tell the truth, we lose our life, our love. And I don't mean like die, lose our life, but like our life force. It's fun when we're in it, but you lose your job. Like, here's the way that I live my life. And I know I'm not always perfect at it. And I know that not everybody else has the same level of standard. So I'm not suggesting you have to live your life like this, but I live my life like, if I wrote everything that I ever do in a book, would I want everyone to know that? I know that's kind of crazy, but I really try hard to do that, because that means that I'm accountable for my truth. It's not so much about the judgment of like what everybody else is going to have, right? But it's like, am I in my truth so much so that I could put it out into the world and feel good about myself? It's about myself, right? It's not about sharing my stories with others or whatever, but can I feel good about myself? And I think that's where I keep getting the word integrity for you, because I feel like you're actually someone who is really integrous. Is that a word? But you have a lot of integrity, and you wouldn't be asking this question on this show if you didn't have integrity, because you'd just be doing it and you wouldn't be seeking guidance. But you're so in it. You're so already entangled and raveled that you're like, help, I know I'm kind of going down this interesting road and I love this road, but yet I feel you already know the ramifications of this road. You got to get to your truth. You've got to really understand why you're doing this and what are your patterns. What is your wounding that you're with someone who is unavailable and someone at work? Because what comes to me on that is that you're actually enjoying, I feel that you're enjoying, your higher self's telling me, you're enjoying the secrecy of this relationship at work. Dig into that. What is that? Like, that's the truth that you want to get to. Like, why is the secrecy, And that's why a lot of people do affairs. Again, it could be for the collective, but that's why people do affairs, because there's like so much juice in like the secrecy, but man, when we show up and we show people who we really are, and we're like really honest and trustworthy and truthful, I mean, there's going to be a lot of, okay, I'm going to play it out. It may not be what happens for you, but down the road, you get exposed, and everybody at work knows that you've had this hidden relationship with a married man. Unfortunately, oftentimes it's the woman that gets blamed. And he's the guy that's cheating, but you're going to get blamed. Everyone's going to look at you. Everyone's going to say, oh my God, when I was in that meeting and that happened, like oh, wow. And they were doing that. Oh, wow. Right. All these things are going to popcorn on you. And that's where I'm saying like the end road of this gets pretty gnarly. And so I'm going to stick to what I said. You need to get a different job. Anything else?
Just that one of the viewers pointed out that you might have some insight about this in your book, chapter.
Well, there's lots of insights in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. So thanks for bringing it forward. I think this is all about truth telling. It is about telling yourself the truth, because that's where you get to the juicy lessons and nuggets of what you came here to learn in this lifetime. And so I think this affair is a really important element of your life's journey. I'm just going to continue to go back to say, please think about it from integrity and entanglement, and the fact that there's other humans that are involved that can be really hurt by your actions, and that sometimes just acting out on things that feel fun aren't for your highest good, and they're not for their highest good either. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm happy for you to come back and ask more questions later on. We'll move on to the next question, but thank you for being so vulnerable and for telling the truth here on the show. All right. Any more live questions, or should I keep going on the... Yep. Okay. Got more live questions coming in.
So Beth, I had a fallout with part of my family, my father's family that he married into. They were pretty awful to me, and I was really hurt. Despite that, I was always willing to hear their hurt and work through it, knowing that that's what was driving their behavior, but they shut me out. Circumstances are now such that I may need to communicate with them about my father's health, finances, and family business. A part of me wants them to apologize to me before I'm willing to reach out to them, but it's unlikely they will. Thoughts on how to reframe this?
I have one really quick question first, and that is, have you ever told them how you feel?
I think I may have before they told me they never wanted to talk to me again, but not sure. I can't remember.
Yeah. So the feeling I got as you asked the question was that you haven't exactly said, this is how I'm feeling. When this happened, I felt this way. And a lot of us don't. I have my own situations where I can say, yeah, I just couldn't do it. You know why? Because I was scared of the rejection in the moment. I was scared that they were going to not listen, not validate, not hear me, not care, right? Because that's the feeling you get, is that they don't care. They've already told you, like, we don't care. We have to keep persevering with sharing how we feel, because our lens of perspective, their lens and your lens, is coming from very different places. Very different backgrounds, varying ideas about what family means, about how we interact with family, what we say to family. And we expect them to then want to respond in the way that we would respond. And when they don't, that's where the disappointment comes in. So I think the only thing we can do is continue to say, here's how I feel. And for this situation, knowing that there's kind of like a lot of history now, right? And there's like a lot underneath. I would ask Spirit, your higher self, to guide you, because the mind is going to just take you into a crazy farm of past hurt and ideas, and I should say this or I shouldn't say that. And whether it's journaling or it's meditation or it's just simply, I get the image of like on your knees just saying, help me to have a better relationship with these family members. Help me speak my truth without, because I feel like what's happening is that you don't want to bring your vulnerability in because they've kind of like so many times when you tried, right? And so then we shrink up and we're like, oh yeah, I don't want to talk about that, because the one time that I sort of tried to do it, they came back and like annihilated me, like emotionally. I just felt like they took my heart out. So I do think, ask Spirit, help me with this. And I also feel that it's not only asking Spirit, but it's asking Spirit to shift the energy for you. This may not be about words anymore. It may not be about the words you say. It may be about the shift of the energy within you and how you feel about it. And the way we do that is we let it go. And I just got a real pearl from a very dear intuitive friend. I said, we were talking about something. I said, oh yeah, I just want to release that. And she said, no. You don't want to release that. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't know. She's like, no, you want to let it go and transmute it, right? Okay, the difference is, she said, think about it. A car, if you release it, you bring it back, right? So a lot of times I think we think that we're releasing something, and I know it's semantics, but there's energy behind the words of which we say, speak, say, think, feel, right? Get to let go. Because when we let go of the attachment to their response. We let go that anything is ever going to change with these people. And we transmute it to a place that we just allow ourselves to feel the love that we have for them, even sometimes when we don't, but that we can get to a place of love, even in these difficult situations, and that we listen more, not less. And that as you listen, you're letting go and you're transmuting, letting go and transmuting. I'm hearing the words, I'm letting go. I'm kind of like at the beginning of this, when I was talking about just sitting there, listening to somebody. It's easy because that person I didn't know, right? But when they're people we know, it's harder. But when we're at these higher levels of awareness and consciousness, this is the practice, isn't it? To like literally sit in the fire and to be able to let it go and not have the attachment. And also that phrase of, if you want to know how enlightened you really are, spend some time with family, right? So I feel like that's always a good gauge. Like, okay, how much do they trigger me? Am I able to really let it go? So yeah, hopefully that letting go and transmuting and asking Spirit to come in and help you do some of that for yourself will help shift them. But let's not have the expectation, because it might not. They might just choose to stay where they're at. Is that helpful? Something more? Yeah.
Well, I think I just got a hit on something, because I can't talk to them. They've asked me not to talk to them, but I may just have to have a conversation from my higher self to their higher self. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And you know what? Thank you. And that exercise came to me so profoundly when I did an ayahuasca journey. I had a family member that and when I realized, no, I just talked to their higher self. And I did. And something big happened as a result of it. Right. And so I'm not suggesting you have to go do ayahuasca. I'm just saying that I learned, ayahuasca showed me the power of that, because a lot of times we can say we're going to do that, but we're so ingrained in the feelings because they're heavy and they're within us at a cellular level, as you know, that we can't actually shift the energy within. So what Aya taught me is, no, really, if you shift it, they will shift. Right. So, but it's also, again, I just want to say non-attachment, because there's lessons that they're teaching you and lessons that they're teaching themselves through their relationship with you. So the more we can anchor into that cleanliness is the word that comes to mind, but cleanliness of spirit, cleanliness of mind, cleanliness of no judgment, no resentment on them. It's really hard for them to stay in their shithole. It's not really the right word, but it's what comes out. And then if they do choose to stay there, in their mind mess and their chaos, that's theirs. It's not ours. And yeah, and we just keep letting it go. Is that helpful? Yay. Thank you. Okay. All right. We are down to the wire. We've got some additional questions that we didn't get to today. I will put them on the list in top queue for next week. Please tune in. And if you haven't already, please do the State of the Heart assessment. It's so much fun. You'll find out if your heart is blocked, broken, healing, or whole. And it just gets you, deeper reflecting into like, hey, like what's really heavy on my heart? Like what's the state of my heart? And you also get some tips, tools, techniques to help you with your spiritual toolbox. And if you want something more, of course, you can always read the book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. And if you want something more, you can get the Awakening and Healing Handbook. It's on bethbell.me. There's lots of tips, tools, modalities in there as well. And there's the psychedelic resource guide. So if anything I've said about ayahuasca might start to tap some curiosity and interest, please go to bethbell.me. The psychedelics resource guide is really a great guide to help you explore whether or not this is the right option and how to go about it. And then, of course, we have the herpes handbook. So that's also on bethbell.me. I can't wait to see you next week. Please submit your questions, bethbell.me/question. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, wishing you much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.